The Bible is considered one of the most important religious and historical documents, consisting of a series of stories told throughout time. Stories that have been distorted from its original meanings over centuries. The Bible has often been used for political gain or interpreted by religious leaders to influence. To influence what, you wonder? Influence behaviors, to influence decisions, and even influence the human mind. But here at Shifting Religious Concepts, our message is simple. Seek the deeper meanings that the stories of the Bible were always meant to tell. Read, interpret, and understand the Bible and its contents as the great storytellers of the past intended it. Now is the time to capture the depth of not only who, but what God truly is. Now is the time to shift from the ideas of identifying yourselves as sheep, but as powerful, living, thriving gods yourself. Shift into the power of not discovering, but uncovering what God created you to be. Right here with SRC, as we began to unpack the secret knowledge that was intended to be shared with everyone.
Hello to our SRC family. I am Manala D, your host, and we are excited to continue our conversation about the book of Numbers. Now, if you were here on our last episode, you have already met our SRC contributors. They are back with us again, and they are fired up and ready to go. Now, this is the second episode in this series, the book of Numbers. What does it all mean? And as always, I suggest you do this right now. Call your family and friends, give them the same link that you use to jump on to this broadcast, and tell them they need to jump on immediately because this is going to be so good. And as always, SRC encourages you to participate. Raise your hand, ask a question, or just make a comment. Now let's get to work. Now, to start us on our journey, Mark Thomas is going to briefly share with us what we unpacked on the last episode.
Okay, thank you, Noel, and greetings. Good morning to everybody. And for those of you who are new to SRC, and we hope we have some new people, we're always looking for new people, we'd like to just quickly tell you a little bit about us and then what happened last week. SRC strives to present the Bible in a new light, but maybe new isn't exactly the right term. I think Tamisha had it right in the opener where she said to uncover is the right term that SRC is striving for, and uncover the imaginations of the ancient storytellers who brought us these sacred books in the first place. They gave us these stories. It might seem like almost a contradiction to call a story sacred when sacred is defined as something that is holy, something that's devoted to a religious ceremony, or simply something worthy of awe and respect. When something is called a story, it seems like at best it's just a reflection of reality and often just dismissed as fiction. SRC doesn't think of it as the Bible in that way. We have awe and respect for the words and for the scriptures that are in the Bible, because we know that within these stories are truths that speak directly to a different reality, and that is the reality of who we are as people. So moving on to last week, we did the first episode on Numbers, and when you read this book at face value, it just seems like accounting and positioning of the tribes of Israel. It might seem about as interesting as reading a textbook on algebra, which is what I thought when I first read it. But our panel quickly dispelled that thought and showed us the real purpose of these verses in chapter 1. We got into the vibration of each person's name and how important that is. We discussed the 12 tribes and why they were positioned according to the zodiac. And then we got into the tabernacle and the special role the Levites had in protecting it. And then one more thing that is very important was, and I wanted to mention, was that last week was that all this numbering and moving of the tribes was done according to the Lord's directions through Moses. And Archie reminded us that this is all symbolic of of a relationship between Moses and the Lord, but the Lord is the Lord within, that resides within. And SRC thinks of this as the God that we are. So really a wide-ranging conversation last week. We even got into an equivalent number for the speed of light and false reasons modern church asks for 1/10 of all your offerings. And I'm just leaving a lot out, but it was a really interesting episode. And I encourage anyone who missed it to go back and catch up on YouTube, because really a really good episode. So I know the panel's ready to get going on this today. So I know I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much for that, Mark. You mentioned that we learned that people were organized according to the number of their name. And today we recognize a census as just counting people. And I think Dr. Griffo and Lavelle Rosser last week talked about this a lot. But guess what? The definition of the word census is an official count or survey of a population, typically recording various details of individuals. So think about this. Who is to say that the number of our names are not being taken into account by the system even today? I believe that numerology may be being used today by the system to gain knowledge about each one of us. And if this is proven true, someone might be saying, well, what's the problem with that? Well, the problem is this. It shouldn't be that the system know more about you, about us, than we know about ourselves. And SRC is here to help to shift that concept. So we want everyone listening to this live broadcast or even on the video to decide that you want to discover the map, or uncover, as Tamisha would say, uncover the map within yourself that leads you to your destiny. And I want you to just take an opportunity to write this down right now. Get a copy of the New Translation Bible, because it's clear in that translation about what I'm getting ready to share with you right now. And I want you to read Exodus chapter 35, verses 30 through 35, and chapter 36, verse 1. Just write this down, because I really want you to go and take some time and look at it. And when you read these scriptures, you will discover that we came to this planet already equipped with certain skills and talents. And I know people say, oh, go to school and get this. We came already equipped with certain skills and talents. Now listen, as I share a little bit of chapter 35, verse 35 with you. And that again is the book of Exodus. And it says, starting with in 35, it says, the Lord has given them special skills as engravers, designers, embroiderers in blue, purple, and scarlet thread on fine linen cloth, and weavers. They excel as craftsmen and designers. Think about that. So you must know that these were not the only talents and skills that we were equipped with. It stands to reason that each one of us arrived already equipped to accomplish and create great things. But first, we got to know who we are, and we must understand the God power that we possess within each one of us. So with saying that, I want to turn this over to Pastor Archie right now, because I want Pastor Archie to briefly share with us what religion wanted us to know about chapters 2 and 4. And I asked Pastor Archie about this because he pastored bishops for over 25 years in churches and religion. So I want him to talk about what religion wanted to teach us, but then also I want him to shift and tell us about the hidden knowledge that will help us to see the truth. Pastor Archie.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Anala. Um, there's a lot in numbers. I was so excited when we first started because I see what has been taught to us is it started out counting and taking a census of all those who were above 20 that could fight. As, and and but there those 12 tribes meant something. Each one of them had a different name. Uh, the tribe of Reuben, see a son. That's what what that tribe meant. And Simeon hearing, and Levi was attached, called attached. But see, we look at this literally and we just see a group of people just going somewhere to reach a point that God is speaking to Moses and telling him to take them. But when we look a little more deep into it and begin, as just like last week we talked about the number of the name of each person in those tribes that headed those tribes. It shows us something a little different about ourselves. And as you go along and see what each tribe name is, we could go back and reference when we first started, we talked about the divided imagination. And as we go through there and look at the tabernacle itself, it represents us. It represents us, but it wasn't given to us that way. It wasn't taught to me that way. It was taught to me, just like I was saying, a group of people traveling somewhere that's following a leader that has been spoken to by God. But as we really begin to look into it, we see that this tabernacle is set up. And I'm sure Dr. Griffo can explain a little more about how this tabernacle is really us. This group of people, it is a group of people, but it shows us how we are to go about reaching the place that we are supposed to get to.
All right, thank you very much, Pastor Archie. Now, in this book of Numbers, one of the things that we have discovered is that in the book of Numbers, there are a lot of numbers. And one of the people that we have on this live broadcast with us was one of our contributors, Lavelle Rosser, is one of the world-renowned numerologists. And I really want him to just kind of give us an insight, Brother Lavelle, on these numbers that are being used in this book, because we know, I mean, they were counting, but we know they were counting by the name, the number of the people's names. What is the significance of giving us so many numbers in these verses, verses 2 through 4?
Let's begin with the number 12, because that number has been spoken of. And the number 12 is a number that deals with sacrifice. Okay. And so when you think of the number 12, you also think of the 12 signs of the zodiac. Okay. And each of the signs of the zodiac has a particular planet that is assigned to it, which gives that zodiac sign its particular identity and power. And each of us, we are born under these zodiacal signs, whether we understand it or not. And so the number 12 comes into play very important. The number 12 also has to deal with language, and it also has to deal with the power of the word, especially the power of the spoken word. So in dealing with the number 12, it's important to know that whenever we speak, we aren't empowering something. Whenever we speak, we are using numbers, letters, and sounds. And that is very, very important to know about numbers, letters, and sound, because every letter in your name has a number, and every letter that is spoken in your name has a sound. Okay? And so I will leave it right there with that in terms of the effect that numbers, letters, and sound has on each of us and throughout the Bible.
Well, let me ask Dr. Griffo a question, and I understand that you're saying that, you know, every letter of our name has a sound, every letter of our name has a number. But I want to ask, and maybe maybe Dr. Griffo or Archie, either one, what's the significance in the book of Numbers? Were they really counting people, Dr. Griffo? What was happening there? What was going on?
No, I'm sorry, good morning. In my understanding, no, they were not counting people. They were giving you just significant numbers that are found all throughout the Bible. The number 5, the number 22, the number 12, the number 7, 3 and 4. These are numbers that are 40 and 30, you know what I mean? And when you reduce 30 and 40 down, you get 3 and 4. But as you read Numbers chapter 2 and specifically chapter 3, it talks about that when they was counting the Levites, they counted 22,000. Well, 22,000 were reduced down to 22, which is a master number, even further down to the number 4. But 22 deals with the amount of bones in your skull. They understood this. This is why the Hebrew alphabet has exactly 22 letters, which goes into the tarot deck, which has exactly 22 cards. So they understand the significance of how these numbers relate to parts of our body and the other parts of the astronomical part of our bodies, the cosmologies. So that's why they would use certain things. There's another, if you read, I think, again, in chapter 3, they talk about that there was 273 something. Well, the average pregnancy is 273 days, you know, give or take. And it's a 40-week gestation. Again, you're dealing with the 40s. So they understand that the mathematics of the creators is so precise that not only did it manifest with us, it manifests out there. So there's a direct correlation. So they would use this to teach you about your bodies, as well as about how, say, the sun goes from the spring to the fall all the way, it takes 9 months and it takes about 273 days. So it's going from 3 different seasons. So
I want to dig a little bit deeper, and you're right. I mean, it's all about the numbers and the zodiac and all that. But when you read the book of Numbers, when you actually read it, and I was in church, I ministered for a long, long time. There's nothing in the book of Numbers that will lead us to understand what you're talking about right now. As a matter of fact, it led us way away from that. We were thinking about these were people that were being counted, and this is the number of people what was the purpose of the book of Numbers if it wasn't plain enough for us to see that it wasn't just about counting, it wasn't about just counting people, it was something that we needed to learn for ourselves. And I mean, I still stumble with that all the time.
Again, it talks, when you understand that the Bible is a book of symbolism, allegory, etc., then you'll start to then look for certain numbers. Again, how many books are there in the book of Revelations? 22.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So the Jewish teachings know about the number 22. So they would be fixated on the number 22. Christians are fixated on the number 7. Muslims are fixated on the number 19. You follow? So as you learn the different religious doctrines, then you'll be able to start to look for certain things. Again, this is all about the body. For those who are really familiar with the children of Israel, now right here we're talking about the census of the 12 tribes, right? But later on, we know that according to the book of Chronicles, as well as the book of Kings, that there were 10 tribes that went north, and they became the lost tribes. And then you had the other two, Benjamin and Judah, which became the new king of the new Israel, right? So you have 10 lost tribes. When you look at your brain and you look at those 12 cranial nerves, you have 10 that go through one portal and 2 that are connected to another portal. So once you understand that how your brain works in those 12 cranial nerves, you understand now why they teach that there are 10 tribes that are lost and 2 that are here, because it's dealing directly with what happens with your brain, which again, your skull has 22 bones in it. You can look it up. I will not tell you something that you cannot verify. So then as they're giving you these stories, they're just teaching you about different aspects of the temple, as well as the other outer port, the outer, the other parts of the temple. So you got the holies of holies up here, and then you got the rest of Solomon's temples down here that goes up and down.
Well,
so then,
I want you to hold it right there. Hold that thought. We're going to come back to that because we're going to take a short commercial break. So just give us a moment and we will be right back in a second after this commercial break. And you can then continue to hear Dr. Griffo break down what he's talking about. So, Dr. Griffo, you were talking about, before we went to commercial break, you were talking about the fact that the reason why the Bible was written that way, did they write it like that to hide this information from us? Or was it something that they wanted to share? Or was it they wanted to tell us, but they didn't have enough information themselves, so they personified these things? So what was that about?
You have to understand that the early church fathers didn't want the masses to understand this secret doctrine. So when King James came later on with his 46 translators, they incorporated this hidden symbolism into the book for those who understood it. So then they would be able to use the Bible to teach this hidden symbolism without letting the church fathers know that this was being taught, because they taught it from a absolutely literal interpretation, which again, when Jesus talked in, I think is the book of Mark, 4th chapter, he said that there was not any time that he spoke not in parables. So if every time Jesus spoke was in parables, and or they call them dark sayings or allegory, as the book of Galatians says, chapter 4, then you can't, again, look at the book as something that you take literally on face value. There's always at least 7 levels to reading any type of religious scroll. You keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And but most are only stuck on the literal interpretation because they're preachers, teachers, imams, rabbis are too lazy to actually go in and teach them, or they want to keep the masses dumb so then they can continue to utilize them. Again, when we talked about tithing last week, if I know that tithing is every month for 3 days, I need to fast and I need to do certain things, then now I don't have to give my hard-earned money to somebody every Sunday. So I can't teach you that because I want to continue to get your money. Okay.
So every month, I want to emphasize that every month for 3 days. Do you get to choose the 3 days that you do this, or
it rotates because it's based off of when the moon is in your sun sign. Your sun sign is what most folk call their astrology sign. So for me being born as a Pisces, then a Pisces is my sun sign. So every month, the moon goes into each sign roughly 2.5 to 3 days. When the moon is in that sign, then that's when you tithe. That's when you give back to God. That's when you stop fornicating, stop drinking, stop swearing, stop taking drugs, stop lying, stop blah, 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 you know, all of the things that they consider the sin. So you're disciplining yourself to give back to God, because for those other 20 something days or those other days, you know, those other 90% of the days, you're doing any and everything.
Well, let's hope that everybody's not doing any and everything, but we get your point, Dr. Griffo, and that is every month and so you need to go out there and you can go on Google and find out when the sun is in your sign, and when it's in your sign, the sun is in your sign, then take those 3 days and meditate. You know, those things that you want to give up or that discipline that you want to do that.
Exactly.
Got that. You know, I want to ask Lavelle Rosser, 22. I mean, and I know I heard Dr. Griffo say that every religion has their number of books, but just think about for those who have practiced Christianity all their life, what is the significance of 22? Why do they try to hide that? What should we know about the number 22? It must be a powerful number.
Right. Well, to continue with what Dr. Griffo said, 22 is a master number vibration. And 22, when you begin to develop yourself within the powers of the number 22, 22 helps you to master this physical, material reality that we live in. That's the basis from the numerology, the essence of number 22. Plus 22 was one of the power numbers, as I talked about before. There's 4 power numbers in numerology. There's 4, there's 8, there's 9, and there's 22. And so when you begin to develop yourself through the cycle of the 22 or the number 22 itself that some of you may have, you are empowered. You're giving more strength, more energy, more stamina to work through this world and master it. Essentially, we're here to master this world. Actually, the number 22 is the vibration which is assigned to planet Earth, but a lot of numerologists don't speak about this. And I had to dig and dig and dig and dig and dig. So what's that? That's telling us that all of us come here to master this world.
All right. You heard it from Lavelle Rosser. We were sent here. We came here. We wanted to be here to master this world. Now, Pastor Archie, let me ask you that you talked about tribes a few months ago, because you had people like Aaron and people like that, and people that were over. They named people that were over these tribes. Why did they name certain people to be over the tribes? Were they most likely master numbers? Maybe could they have been, or maybe I don't know if Lavelle might want to respond to that. But I wanted to understand the people that they say were leaders of the tribe. What's the significance of those people? Were their names maybe names that were defined as leaders or numbered as leaders? Either one.
Well, you look at the tribes, and for instance, Reuben, and I looked at the number of that tribe was 46,000. The first census was 46,500, which comes out to me is it's going to come out to this 6 as a base number now. But then the name of that tribe is see a son. That's the name. The meaning of Reuben was see a son. Now, each tribe had a different name. Yes, now the names of that tribe meant something. And as I was saying, that Reuben would mean see a son, and then there was a symbol for that tribe also. And as we said the last time, the number, did that mean that each one that was called out? I haven't checked Reuben out to see what the number comes out to be, But I think each tribe, you said, well, their leaders, they were picked out of that group uh, according to the number of that name. I believe when we started last week, it said the number of that name of that tribe was significant to them being leaders over that tribe and that family. Yeah, so I'm thinking here as the 12 tribes were picked. You know, you had to be in that line. Like they said, Jesus had to be in that bloodline of David. And they gave us all the names so that we could see that he really belonged there. So the same thing with each tribe, they were picked in accordance to their ability to lead and their bloodline, where they came from.
The book of Numbers, I believe, if I'm correct, and I'll pass this to Dr. Griffo as well. The book of Numbers really is telling us about about us. This is not something about some people like was there a real Aaron? Was there, this is talking about us and telling us, giving us understanding about how we can lead. And when we're setting up our lives, our corporations, or whatever we're doing, it's letting us know, number one, we talked about when we first came on that we were provided certain gifts already. We came equipped with this stuff already in us. And so so now it's showing us when we're getting people to lead our groups, or if we're going to be a leader, it's letting us know that we should understand who we are before we try to become a leader, perhaps. But Dr. Griffo, could you expand on this a little bit to take us a little bit deeper on? And I know that there's some names you may have that you want to share with us, and I know that's going to take a while. But give us one of the names, whatever you want to share with us, and break it all down and let us understand what that means in a name.
Okay, first off, I just want to make sure I say this before I forget the thing. You were talking about a leader, and we're currently in the zodiac sign of Leo, which is the head of the zodiac. This is the king of the jungle, and the jungle, of course, is the other animals that make up the. So Leo being the highest or most high, or as they say in Hebrew, Elyon El. Now, as this relates to our body, and I'm gonna get to defining some of these words.
Take your time.
So you have, again, you're looking at the cross. This is the short end of the cross. The arms are equal length. And then you got the lower body, which shows the lower part of the cross. So you're looking at a cross. So when they had those 4 tribes around the throne, these are the 4 directions, with Leo being, of course, summer, or Judah, Dan being the fall, Reuben being Aquarius, the winter, and then Ephraim being the spring. So these are the heads of the 4 tribes that Pastor Archie was talking about. And when you're dealing with the name Judah, Judah comes from the word Yahuda, from the word Hudi, which means to guide or to lead. This is why these names were picked. Absolutely. But getting back to the people that the story surrounds, Moses, Aaron, and that's who they mainly talk about. And Moses' name, which they tried to say Moses meant to draw out and say there was a Hebrew word, but it really comes from the Egyptian word misu or mes, or as if you hear it in the name Ramesses. So see, they get that name from the Africans, where the word Mose or Mesu means child. So the child is the pineal gland that every so many days drops a seed out, like a pine cone. A pine cone does what? It closes up so it doesn't drop its seed. And then once it's warm enough, it opens up and the seeds drop. The same thing happens with the pineal gland. It closes up, and then when it opens up, the seed drops. So this child of Moses, right? Moses always went and talked to God on the mountain. This is the mountain. This is the mound. right? If you look at the name Aaron, Aaron means it deals with the mountain, a strong mountain. So when they give you these names, they're giving you the story from the physiological aspect, but they hide it in the allegory. Again, every time Moses talked to God, he went on the mountain and talked to God. So as that seed travels from the sacrum back up the spinal column, it goes to the mountain to talk to God. And
So what's that mean for us? So what you're saying, what that means for us, our audience that's listening, that means that when we are in our meditation, we should be thinking about and sensing that the power moving from the below up to the top, where we can reach the universal creator and have that conversation. And that's going to be a powerful conversation when we do that. Okay, keep on. Okay, keep talking.
I'm sorry, that is via meditation, that is reached via tithing, by disciplining yourself and being able to then have that seed leave, come from heaven, get sent down to earth, go on into hell, and then come up out of hell and come back to the right hand of the Father.
Now in seed, are you saying is the seed the thought?
It's you could say it's a thought, but it's not, and it's not really a physical seed either. It's metaphysical.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know what I mean, you're dealing with the aspect of God that, what do they call it? In the beginning, God gave man, blew into man, and man became, you know, the breath of life. Spirit. Right. You know what I mean? So that, and then it says that the woman's seed will trample on the head of the devil's seed. Right. Mm-hmm. Now, that's literally the physical seed, as in the sperm, it was metaphysical. That's what I'm saying. The light, the intellect, the
illumination.
Yes, exactly. This is why when the Bible talks about in the beginning, he created a greater light and a lesser light. Then it says later on he created the stars too. And people are like, well, how could you count the days if there was no sun? Because the word that was there is Ur, which means light. Abraham came from Ur of the Chaldees, or the word Ma'ur, which means intellect. So you got, it's got different meanings. Once you look at the Hebrew and you understand those meanings of those words, in Arabic they say it's Nur, N-U-W-R, which means light, or the sun, you know, as some people like to say. So that's the seed, that's the child that is born every month that you gotta tithe to bring back up and give back to God so he can sit back on the right hand of the Father. This is why the tribe of Judah is on the right side. They're in the east. This is why
meditation is so important then.
Right, because you want to take that seed and take it back toward the east side or the right side. This is why when the disciples were fishing with Jesus and they couldn't catch any fish, and Jesus said, throw the net on the right side. So you come up with the name Benjamin, which means son of the on the right hand, etc. It's all a play on your body and how your body works with this germ that happens every roughly 30 days within our bodies. So that's what it is. It's a play on that. So these names are used to explain that process. Like the name Moses and Aaron's sister Miriam, her name means rebellious, right? So if you're thinking negative thoughts, then you're going to be rebelling against that God-like essence that you want to maintain, especially during the time that you're tithing. So as you read this story in Numbers chapter 3 and chapter 4, it talks about a certain tribe of Israelites called Koheleth who couldn't, they could get to the temple, but they couldn't touch it or they couldn't look at it or else they would be killed. And the same thing with those thoughts. You can bring them up, but they can only go so far. You got to kill them because they can't get to the holies of holies. They can't, you follow what I'm saying? They can't penetrate that area where God dwells within the brain. So
let me make sure I clear this up for our audience, because I want to clear it up for myself as well. So are you saying that some of those thoughts that people have, they can't go all the way up to the higher consciousness? They don't get there. So we think that because we see things happening in our world based on our thoughts, it's not something that's coming from from God. Those things are not coming from our higher self because they never reached that point so they can manifest in our world. Those things are being manifested maybe at the root chakra and things like that, but they're never, because only thought, and that makes so much sense. Think about this. Think about this. That's why our higher selves, the higher universal creator, is only going to be good. It's only going to create the good. I mean, what you want to consider as good, the things that you define as good. That's what that is, because all the thoughts that are coming out of here, out of the higher self, are those thoughts, those things that are of a good report.
Right. That's why you have crucifixion in your Bible, because once that thought comes up to here, it has to get crucified. It can't go into heaven. Flesh and blood cannot get into heaven. Flesh and blood being the thoughts of the lower nature. So you have to crucify it to be able to let the spiritual essence go on up to the temple. Go ahead, Brother Archie, Pastor Archie.
Well, see, that's what I'm sitting here thinking. If you look at the tabernacle was set up as a prime example of how to be cleansed. And you proceed it through the steps. Each step, you got to get cleansed before you get up to the Holy of Holies. And if you do get up there and you're not cleansed, that's why the high priest had the bells and the rope on his robe, so that they hear him while he's in there. And if they don't hear that bell, he done got killed. So look at what they've given us. Esoterically, it shows you how you go from step to step to cleanse yourself. And if you're not cleansed, you're not going to be able to live within that area of the Holy of Holies.
Beautiful. I loved it. Loved it. Beautiful.
That's powerful.
Like that.
So what happens to that thought? What happens to that thought when it's like that? They just pull it back. You can't. In essence, what it's telling us, that thought is never going to make it.
It can't enter somewhere. It will get electrocuted. That's why the Bible spoke about that guy that when he touched the temple, when he touched the holies of holies, he got electrocuted. And the priest had to wear certain clothes because the clothes would conduct electricity where they wouldn't get killed.
Now tell for our audience, what does that mean for our audience? Tell them in layman's terms what they need to be doing so that they, so that their thoughts can get there, and I know you can, but I want us to break it down for them so that they understand exactly what they could be doing so that their thoughts can be manifested into this world.
You have to guard your thoughts. You have to be very mindful of everything you eat. And when I say eat, I'm saying the people that you hang around, the food that you also intake through your mouth, but the food you intake through your eyes, the food you intake through your ears, the food you intake everywhere is a part of what you consume. So you have to be mindful of what you consume. Bad music can influence bad thoughts. Bad food can influence bad health and bad thoughts. So, and even seeing certain things can influence bad thoughts and behaviors. So you have to be very mindful by being always concentrating on God, as they say, and on more healthier thoughts, and you'll be able to electrocute and keep those cowards and eavesdroppers out of your temple.
I love that. It's and I know we're talking about the book of Numbers. I mean, people say, "Oh, they don't seem like they're talking about the book of Numbers to me." But the book of Numbers is about us, and there's no other way that we can unpack this stuff unless we talk about what it really truly meant. And we can sit here, and that's what I believe religion did for a long time, is sat here and, for example, the chapter 4, you could read verse 3, and it says, from 30 years old and upward, and even 50 until 50 years old, all that enter into the host to do the work in the tabernacle of the congregation. So people are thinking that that's talking about going somewhere. The Israelites were doing some work in the tabernacle, but it wasn't about that. And Lavelle, talk to us from 30 years old and upward, even until after 50 years old. What does that mean? Because that's age, that's 30, and then of course that's 50. So tell us about that. What does that mean for us?
Oh, well, that's a period where during the human lifespan, we become the most productive in life. Okay, that's that period, and so that's where you acquire a lot more insight and knowledge that you're able to use later on in life.
Got you. Well, let me ask this question.
Uh-huh.
In verse 5, and anybody can answer that, and I'm looking forward to you guys, just having this conversation here just before we get ready for break again. It says, and when the camp setteth forward, and this is in verse 5 on chapter 4, Aaron shall come and his sons, and they shall take down the covering veil and cover the ark of testimony with it. Now, a lot of times people, I think that's one of the reasons in the church, they put up this veil, certain things you can't walk on and certain stuff you can't touch in religion. But what is verse 5 really telling us? What is that sharing with us? Or is that just something somebody threw in to get us off what the truth is?
Okay, remember the story of Moses and Aaron. Now, Moses was not a great speaker, so then he had Aaron as his mouthpiece. Throat chakra going into the crown chakra. I mean, going into the third eye and on up to the high chakras. Remember that story of when Moses came to the Pharaoh and God gave him this rod, and God told him to put the rod on the ground, and it turned into a snake. And then the Egyptian priest did the same thing. And then when he picked it up, it turned back into a staff. Well, what's the snake and the staff? It's nothing but the kundalini. It's the spinal column. So when you pick it up and you try to hold it in your carnal state, it's going to turn into a rod. It's going to get stiff. But when you release it and allow that godly energy to do what it does, then it turns into the snake where it actually illuminates. So when you're dealing with this story about Moses and Aaron with the rod, and again, the rod was to help them climb the mountain to get up to the top. Aaron's name means mountain, but Moses couldn't get into the promised land. Moses couldn't get into Jerusalem. What is Jerusalem? Jeru, abode, salam, peace, abode of peace. This is where the abode of peace is. Moses couldn't get there.
Why couldn't Moses get there?
Because Moses killed the person and Moses didn't listen to God.
So Moses did not meditate. He didn't do the work that he needed to do to get there. It wasn't about him really killing somebody, because he's supposed to not supposed to let those negative thoughts come up, right?
Right.
But so there was something that Moses didn't do, and that was to listen. So that means when we're in meditation, it's not about talking, it's about listening, isn't it?
That's correct. Absolutely. A prayer is the art of talking to God. And meditation is the art of listening to God.
Listening.
Got you. And I want to ask another question, because this is
Go in and we talk and we don't listen. That's why we don't get the instructions that we're asking for.
And Moses didn't do that.
Exactly.
So in verse 6, it says, it talks about, and shall put thereon the covering of badger skins, and shall spread over it a cloth wholly of blue, and shall put in the staves thereof. What was they talking about? Covering of badger skins. Was that flesh?
It's speaking of the Ark of the Covenant. Remember, when they had the Ark, they had the two cherubims whose job was to do what? Cover the mercy seat. The badger skin is to cover the mercy seat is the pineal, pituitary, thalamus, that area.
Gotcha.
So that's why they named the parts of our brain cerebrum, from the word ceres, which means to cover, because these coverings that cover the inner workings. So then when they said they put the cherubs, cherub and cerebrum is the same word. It means to cover. So when they went in, only the priest could get into the holies of holies, and they were able to do the meditation and the good thoughts. They were able to cover the mercy seat.
Wow. Isn't it amazing? It's so amazing how stories just can shift a person's life. the lives of people so that we react and do and believe and go in some direction, never knowing what the truth is. I mean, it's amazing that something as simple as what you just said, well, simple because of the way you laid it out for us, but in essence, when you read that in the Bible, you have no idea what it's talking about until someone breaks it down for you, because we have been misled for so long. But what I want to do right now, we're going to go for a short break, and when we come back, we're going to hear from each one of our panelists here, and they're going to talk to you about whatever's on their heart regarding the book of Numbers when we come back.
Want to know what it's like behind the walls of a women's prison? Get Anala D's latest release, Screaming from the Inside, Incarcerated Women and the Journey to Awakening. Want to study Anala D's roadmap for getting released in 2 years after being sentenced to 20 years served to the door? Obtain her book, How to Prepare a Parole Package and Trigger Your Release from Prison Today.
Thanks for staying with us. We're going to go around now. We're going to do some round robin here, and we want our contributors to talk about what they either learn or what they want to share with you. Okay, we're going to start with Mark Thomas.
Okay, another great show. Couple things that entered my mind during today's show was the amazing correlation between what the panelists were talking about and the book of Revelations. It just brought me right back to a lot of what is in Revelations, a lot of correlation just from reading chapter 4. I think it's amazing correlation between what Dr. Griffith was talking about and that book. So you're talking about from right at the beginning, Numbers being at the beginning of the Bible and Revelations being at the very end of the Bible. And here we have very similar messages between the two. The other thing that I just wanted to, and maybe we'll save it for next show, is when Lavelle talked about mastering, we're here to master our world. I wondered if that meant that each individual had their own definition of what that meant, or what mastering meant. And is that does each individual have a different mastering of the world? So that's just something, a question that sprung into my mind. That's all I got.
Thank you so much for that, Mark Thomas. And that's one of the reasons we have Lavelle Rosser on, because he is a numerologist, and that's what he does all day, all the time. So if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing in this world, he is the person that you should be contacting, because he is the one that can lay out that plan for you, tell you exactly what you're supposed to be doing. He's done it for me. He's done it for a lot of people. So if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, Lavelle Rosser is the person that can help you get there. And I will make sure that I get his information out to all of you guys in an email. So now let's go to Pastor Archie Sanders and let him tell us what he wants to share at the end of the show.
Okay, the book of Numbers is I believe is very important to those who are either looking at it literally, or the ones that do understand, the esoteric meaning of it, because it shows cycles, and there are different cycles in our life. There's a 52-day cycle from birthday to birthday, from your birthday month date to the next birthday date. That's 52. Those 52 there are cycles that I want to, that was one of my questions I want to ask Brother Neville about Lavelle, about the 52 cycles. There's from birthday to birthday. That's 52 weeks from birthday to birthday, from your birthday date to that. That's a cycle that we all go through, and they're set up in 7. I think by 7, something like that. Which numbers are very important there. So I wanted to ask him that, but I just wanted to people to understand that the book of Numbers shows what you go through also as they traveled around, and we talk about Moses. Moses is not allowed to go to the place that was planned for him because he did not agree. He went along with the people and didn't understand that we were able to actually go that far. So he was not allowed to go there. And as you look at the story, but look at us as a person, we start with that lower chakra, and until we can beat that animal nature down and come to understand that we are able to reach a higher consciousness, we can't get there. We're not able to get there. We're not able to see, even though, there's a possibility there for you to reach a higher consciousness. You can't get there until you get through those lower, the lower, the animalistic way of thinking. Just like now, people looking at us, we've been indoctrinated to believe a certain thing. So now you got to look at this and see, can you get through what you've already been indoctrinated about, and come to understand the cycles of our life and why we're going through the thing. But if you stick with SRC, we're going to help you get there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pastor Archie. You heard it from Pastor Archie. We can be stuck in root chakra for a long time, or to the end of our lives on this earth, and never get to that higher place. And we don't want that. So now let's go to Lavelle Rosser, who is going to share some parting words for us. And we are short on time.
Okay, once again, I got a lot out of today, and I'd just like to answer Pastor Archie's question real quick. Yes, there are 7 52-day cycles within a year, and there's also a 7 52-day cycle from one's birthday to the next birthday. And the most important of the 52-day cycles is that last 52 days, or 52 days before your birthday, because that's a period that's your 7th 52-day cycle. And that's a period that we need to go into deep reverence, meditation, doing the things that Dr. Griffo talked about in terms of observing that tithing.
Gotcha. Thank you so much for that, Lavelle. Yeah. Now, let's go to Tamisha Burgess, who's going to give us some brief parting words.
Yes, thank you. There's a lot that came up for me. We all have our own interpretations of the exact same thing. And what was coming up, I wrote this down: integration, cleansing, crucifixion. I'm working on a body of work right now that talks about all of this information in relevance to mental health. And when we talk about, this rising up of energy from the root into the crown, I think it's important to point out that what we are crucifying, just in my research and in my own personal experience, is these false ideologies, these false concepts. So what cannot make it up to the crown or God, so to speak, is the fakery, are the masks, are just the false indoctrinated information. And so I know we mentioned integration before, but I know I have very taboo concepts because of my own personal experience. And so what I know for sure is what is coming up from the root that needs to be crowned isn't about killing away, but the crucifixion is about getting rid of what is false and then integrating both worlds. It's integrating it's integrating both worlds. I wish I can go deeper into all I have here, but maybe we can save that for next week. But there's so much more that came up for me, and it's going to probably push a lot of envelopes. So we can talk about that next time.
Love that. I love that. So what we hear you saying is, it's about integrating, and it's about, not necessarily killing, but to work with everything, and then stop being fake. As you know, when I say stop being fake, I mean only the real is going to come up.
Only the real is going to come up, right? And so
you.
anything that's been covering that is what's burning away, so to speak, is what's being crucified. So for so long we've been taught to demonize, what we think are negative thoughts. If negative thoughts are, it's really unhealthy ego and all that's attached to that. And so we've been demonizing something that we should be bringing up. It's not about keeping it down or don't let it rise. It's supposed to rise, because as long as you continue to suppress it is what is causing your own suffering. There's a lot more to go along with that, and we can talk about it.
We'll make sure that we talk about that a lot more in our next broadcast, because I want to hear more about. So if we're not letting it get all the way to the higher consciousness and we're letting it rise, where is it going? So we want to talk about that. So this is something we can talk about next week. So our audience, stay tuned. Dr. Griffo, what do you have? What's our parting word? What parting words do you have for us?
Oh, I was gonna fade out, but okay, since you got me here now. First, the first 7 words in the Bible: in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. There's also 7 Hebrew words, which are made up of 28 letters. That's your week, that's your month. When you add 1 + 2 + 3 + 4 + 5 + 6 + 7, that's 28. When you multiply 1 + 2 + 3 + 5 + up to 7, you get 5,040, which is the diameter of the moon and the radius of the earth, or the circumference of the earth and the diameter of the moon. Either way, you add those 2 numbers up, it gives you the heavens and the earth. So the Bible is such a precise book insofar as it's teaching you what happens in the universe, as well as what happens within our bodies. But again, going to the 28, it correlates with women and their monthly cycle. You're dealing with, again, when you're dealing with the 22, if you go to the book of Psalms, it's divided into 20. Psalms 176 is divided into 22 different sections. You add the Genesis, the total books in Genesis is 50. The total books at the end in Revelations is 22. 50 and 22 is 72.
Wow.
The original Catholic Bible had 72 books, because the sun moves 1 degree every 72 years on its 25,920 year journey, called the galactic year. So you have to look at the numbers and also see that they're teaching you about astronomy and how the universe works.
Absolutely.
I just want to add one more thing. I know we're like 5 minutes over, but we're going to get this. Let me get it out of me. But let me get it out of me. But Mark mentioned if we all have our own worlds to master, and just based on my own journey, our bodies, as above, so below, our bodies are our worlds, is our earths. And so mastering our world, as Mr. Lavelle mentioned before, is mastering our bodies, mastering our minds, mastering our emotions. So we are the earth. We are on the many earths within the earth.
Love that. I love that. I absolutely love that. You're absolutely right about this. So next week, we're going to talk a lot more about this. So you see, when we talk about the book of Numbers, and someone might say, well, you're not talking about the book of Numbers. We are talking about the book of Numbers. We're talking about, you are the book. And I think Dr. Griffo said this before. We are the book. He said, when you open a book up, it looks like this. So we are the book of Numbers. And those numbers create a pattern within us to help us guide us somewhere. So the key is, it's not just reading what someone wanted us to read and talking about what somebody wanted us to talk about. The key is talking about uncovering and discovering who we are.
I love that you say that we are the book. I'm thinking of Akashic Records. We are actually the book.
We are that. And with that, I'm going to pass it over now to our moderator, Mark Thomas, who's going to take us on out. We appreciate everybody coming. Carice, we appreciate you. Sayuel, we appreciate you. Victor, Vis, all the way from Africa. We appreciate you being with us today as well. You guys are always supporting us, and we appreciate that a lot. With that, I'll pass it over to Mark Thomas.
All right. Thank you, Nala. Great show today. Our next broadcast is going to be next week, August 8th at 10 o'clock Eastern, as usual. So please join us as we continue revealing the book of Numbers. We really appreciate everyone's patronage and encourage you to email us your questions or comments at shiftingreligiousconcepts@gmail.com. If anyone's interested in advertising with SRC, please just contact us at that same email. And don't forget that this presentation will be available on YouTube within the next few days. Even if you attended today's program, please go on the Shifting Religious Concepts channel and give us a thumbs up. It really helps us. This is one of the few ways we get public attention, and it helps to promote the SRC mission. If you're not subscribed to our newsletter, go to shiftingreligiousconcepts.com/registration and join us. That does it for today's broadcast. Once again, watch your email for the Zoom link, which will take you to next week's session. In the meantime, we wish you all peace, health, wisdom, and love, of course.